Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland review, and welcome to the Development Hell podcast. And this is the Movie Club, and we're back at it again to talk some Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks. No, it's not Forrest Gump. It's Castaway. And oddly enough, this was like the last time Tom Hanks got nominated for Best Actor. So just chew on that one. It's been 23 years. What's wrong with you, Academy? But joining me, we have Jim, we have Vinnie, we have Matt, and Kevin. And we're here to talk about this survival film, basically for like half of it just starring Tom Hanks. We'll go around like we usually do and get everybody's general thoughts and when they first saw it. So, Jim, when did you first see this? How many times have you seen it? What are your general thoughts?
I was a teenager first time I saw it. It was back in the time that I was a big fan of Survivor, so it was probably like I was probably watching it with
Nice.
the same eyes as Survivor. Um, and I watched it 2 nights ago for the second time. Um, Very different experience this time around. Um, I remembered three scenes from the movie. Um, and we can maybe, I don't know, we can talk about what scenes those are later, but they're big. There's a cringy scene, there's an important scene, and there's one that I thought was funny the first time I saw it, and it struck me as very, very sad this time around. Um, I thought the intro was kind of confusing. It took me a second to figure out who was who. For a second, I thought that Tom Hanks was with the divorcee that was dating the cowboy that was in Russia. I was like, what is happening here? But none of that's really important until the end. And I figured it out. Figured it out eventually. Um, I've got some heavy questions uh, about like kind of life and death situations. Um,
We'll certainly dig into them.
I've got some technical questions about like filming, and I think Shane could probably answer those. Maybe not, like chronologically or not, or how it was. And then there's one really big scene symbolically that I want to ask you guys about, but I feel like that's all really nuts and bolts. So, yeah, second time viewing 2 nights ago for me.
How about you, Vinny?
This was my second time seeing it. I think the first time I watched it was back in high school. When I was back in high school, and, and I mean, like especially 20 years ago when this movie was made. Obviously, if you need a movie with just one person in it for roughly two-thirds of it, Tom Hanks is definitely going to be one of your go-to people, and I definitely do think this is probably one of his best performances because it really does show that I mean even though he's a great actor, it really is something to see, like like him being by himself for most of the movie and having to carry it all by himself. And I know people like to joke about how about like all like the FedEx product placement and all that. But I mean, when he gets to the island, like it really is like a fascinating part of the story to like see him being surrounded by all these packages, opening them up and trying to figure out like how he could use them to prolong his survival. And 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 like because it's been like a long time since I first seen it. Like there were parts of it that definitely hit me harder than it did when I first watched it. Like there were little things that I caught onto this time around that really enhanced like the emotional aspects of the movie for me. And I won't I'll save the rest of the stuff for when we go in depth. But yeah, I mean, like it was great seeing Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks together again after Forrest Gump, and I just I'm glad I got to watch this again.
Matt.
Yeah, let's see. I probably definitely saw this in high school. It's been like a long time. The only scenes I remembered were just like a couple of more like the bloody or like really quick things. Let's see. What stood out for me? Okay, so a couple things. Number one, I like when like uh, when you're watching like a horror movie, or you're watching kind of like a movie that has like it's like playing with suspense, but what they do is that they kind of just like take away all of the music like on purpose, and it's kind of like, okay, so like the only thing that you can hear is either nothing or just like ambient like weird noise in the background. A lot of this movie was like ocean waves crashing, so I thought that was like really interesting. I feel like the only music that you hear is like the very beginning and the very end, so I thought that was really interesting. Tom Hanks, uh I don't know how I don't know exactly like how they did it. It almost kind of like a Christian Bale thing, kind of like in the beginning of the movie where you see like how his body looks because he's like walking around with the shirt off, and then like the 4 years later, and it's kind of like, wow, like this guy, like he put in a lot of work, like for this performance. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie, I think, and also I like the ending. It's pretty. It's kind of like it's like poetic in like the symmetry of it. I kind of like it. So yeah, cool movie. Whose movie was this, by the way? Like, who won the movie lottery thing?
Oh yeah, who suggested this? I think
Vinny,
that was Joe actually.
That
was
was
it?
Yeah.
gotcha.
I
I was
remember.
curious.
For some reason, I thought it was Vinny. I guess it was Joe because Vinny's not taking ownership of it. So there you go. We have eliminated it was Joe, who is not here, who might be having more fun than us. But Kevin,
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one too. Uh, like a couple of you were saying, I really liked the sound design in this movie. I do think Tom Hanks was just the perfect casting to pull off the role, at least in the way that he did. Um, this was an interesting one to watch post COVID as well, because the major theme of the movie is kind of like loneliness and how that affects somebody. It was really interesting watching it this time around when I was not a kid. It hit a little differently, and there are a couple scenes that hit a lot different than when I first saw it as a kid. Uh, I loved I loved it.
yeah, it's interesting. I think this is the third time that I've watched this film. The first time was in college, and this third time watching this yesterday, this hit a whole bit different than the first time that I watched it, or even the second time, because I know I loved from the plane crash to the raft and him getting home. And like the first time, especially that I watched him, like I'm not really interested in the beginning. And I thought the end part was weirdly tacked on. But that ending part hit a whole lot different now. And there's just so much, which this is true. There's a lot of subtlety in this film in terms of certain things that hit really hard or add layers to his character in the way that they set him up, just using visuals. And just from like a technical standpoint, this is a fantastic film. And this is probably the best film that Zemeckis has made since this movie, like since 2000, and hasn't really been able to like hit this kind of height with it. And like I mentioned before, like Tom Hanks has only been nominated for one Oscar since this, and was for supporting actor. And I feel like Tom Hanks is taken for granted, that just like, oh, Tom Hanks does amazing work. Well, yeah, we don't need to give him an Oscar, which is the opposite of Streep, who's like always amazing. And they're like, well, which means we have to give her a nomination for everything. I do want to put this out here. So, Tom Hanks gained 50 pounds pre-production to look the way that he did at the beginning of the movie.
Mm.
The time jump of 4 years, they paused production for 4 months for him to lose all that weight in 4 months. And fun fact, he almost died filming this movie because of a leg infection that he got when he got a cut on his leg. And they paused production for 3 weeks while he recovered. So what an interesting ride this was for Tom Hanks making this movie. And like Tom Hanks isn't the kind of actor that you think about doing like the transformation and doing like all that kind of stuff for a role. He's not the first one that you think of. But boy, was this was something. And he lost to Russell Crowe, right? For Gladiator.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure for Best
Yeah.
Actor, which I love Gladiator. But like, you know what? Russell Crowe won for that snotty cry, 100%, that he had at the beginning of that movie. But like Tom Hanks is amazing in this. But I guess, do we want to start with the island, or talking about before he gets to the island or after the island kind of thing? Because I feel like there's two very distinct pieces to this film. It's while he's by himself alone, and then kind of like the bookends of the film.
Why don't we talk about before the island? Because I think my views have changed on this the most since I first saw it.
Well, I know there's some fun camera work
I saw
at the very
text.
beginning. Like, we're in the life of a package
Yes.
kind
No,
of
look,
thing.
I saw the text. No, I'm good.
So, it's very like, what was it? Lord of War, where like we see the life of a bullet kind of thing at the beginning of it. Like this.
Oh, I need to watch that movie then.
Yeah, you get to see like going through this package and everything. I was really impressed by how well they set up Tom Hanks' character in the beginning part. Like, you get him. Like, he is, everything's by the clock. Everything needs to get done. Him and Helen Hunter like sitting down with their agendas and stuff, trying to plan out stuff. And one like little subtle thing that like I was watching this with Joe and pointing out, like, he had a shipping license. Like, he's a licensed sailor and everything, and like all of that like adds layers to this experience that he has.
That is a cool detail.
Yeah,
I did not catch that.
I thought it was really interesting, like how well they set up his character.
Yeah.
Oh, Vinnie, you're muted.
It's one of those things where, as a kid, that whole sequence with him working really hard, working by the clock,
Mm-hmm.
I got it, but as an adult in the workforce, it's like I've worked with so many people like that.
But you know what? Also in terms of the whole aspect with him being obsessed with time, one little thing that I caught on this time around was how he gets stuck on an island in the South Pacific, and like the little pocket watch that Helen Hunt's character gives to Tom Hanks. She says, my father had this pocket watch when he was stationed in the South Pacific during the war. So like the whole thing with her giving him a watch, it doesn't just speak to him being obsessed with time, but it also kind of like it kind of like connects him to her on a much deeper level because there's that aspect of her having two people that she's loved, be in the South Pacific.
That's a good way to connect it.
Yeah, it is an interesting point, and like obviously he keeps that with him the whole entire time, and they use that as like a measure of like passage of time, besides the fact that it's a little watch. But like you see it, especially after the jump, like the picture fading and everything. And I love, so it's subtle. It's like a smaller scene, but like I just love that thing with like where he like almost walks away and then turns back around with like, well, I guess this isn't that kind of gift, and has like the little box wrapped and everything. I'm like, see, there's the Tom Hanks from like the romance films that we get Tom Hanks in like the earlier 90s with. And this is why you cast Tom Hanks, because you just love Tom Hanks. And was very interesting, especially as you got on the island, how much you realized how distinct of a presence and voice Tom Hanks has when he's like the only one there. But I did enjoy that little moment with him and Helen Hunt. And then that just makes it that much worse after he gets back from the island. But
it's real. It's amazing how like this, like the small amount of screen time that they have together, like in the before and after sections of the movie, but they really do sell their chemistry, despite the limited screen time.
In a way, I think it helps just with the way they structure it in the movie.
Well, yeah, and it makes us connect with him more, because if we only saw him as like the really, really like work by the clock kind of employer character, would we connect with him as much? And the fact that we get to see him, he loves somebody.
It humanizes his character.
Definitely. And it gives him a
great monologue though in the beginning, though, like great line reading.
Oh yeah,
there's like two really awesome monologues in the movie. Definitely him putting up the clock on the wall. Maybe we'll talk about it later when he's talking about. We'll talk about the end, but yeah, great line reading. Like that was really awesome.
Anybody else feel dated? And he opens that suitcase and has like a handheld CD Walkman thing, and just like, oh my god,
remember those?
I remember mine. And
how it was 1995.
Well, yeah, and the movie itself is 23 years old.
Yeah,
this thing's a period piece now. It's a 90s set movie. Isn't that fun? Technology though. But I guess, does anybody else have anything that stood out to them in like getting on that plane?
Yeah, so just to talk about his character a little bit more, he's got these traits that are starting to emerge in that scene that I didn't pick up on when I first saw it. You see him starting to feel a little bit of empathy for that guy whose wife has cancer, and he's recommending her the doctor. There's a moment after they're drinking the wine, and he's offering her condolences, and you just see his face, and he's thinking like, oh yeah, like I'm leaving home for this. And this guy's he's working right now, and his wife is at home, possibly about to die. And it just hits his face in a certain way where there's a lot of just facial acting going on in the movie. And I don't know, you can see him stewing on things even before the plane crash. And it all kind of connects through to the end. He has that big crisis in the middle where he's stuck on the island for all those years, and then there's a little bit of payoff towards that buildup that we got very briefly in the beginning. And I like how that was structured.
Yeah, I definitely got I got a lot more appreciation for the bookends watching this now than I did when I watched the first time, because, on some level you're just like, I want to get to the island. This is Castaway. And I feel like the film would hit very different if it's just him on this plane and like the opening scene's the plane crashing and then him getting off on the raft and being saved. Like, if that was just the movie, I feel like it would hit emotionally very differently.
Yeah, like the ending, like the ending when you find out like his wife or his girlfriend is like married. Like if you didn't have that stuff in the beginning, like that wouldn't have been kind of like a gut punch. It would have been like, I feel sorry for him, I guess, but like you see like the beginning parts, and it's like, oh crap, like.
Well, I don't think you would have that end part if you didn't have the beginning. Like, the most streamlined version of this film is he's on the plane, it crashes, he's on the island, 4 years pass, and he gets off, and the movie ends with the boat floating by and us knowing that he was saved. And I don't know, especially now, I don't know if that's would have been anywhere near as effective, especially emotionally with this. I do want to say, we'll definitely get towards like the post-island stuff, but boy, can Robert Zemeckis do some thrilling filmmaking with some great special effects and everything, because that whole entire sequence with the plane crash was some top-notch filmmaking.
It was
And
terrifying.
It's like what he did like over a decade later with Flight,
yep.
that whole plane crash scene.
And I think Robert Zemeckis has been a little forgotten over the past 20 years. I think if most people, probably I guess 20 or younger, just remembers all of his motion capture CGI movies like Polar Express and Beowulf and stuff like that. But like that scene's incredible with like all the shots underwater and just the explosion. The effects look really good for a film from 23 years ago. And obviously, Tom Hanks has to do a lot of great physical acting to sell that whole entire sequence, too.
And what I really like the most about that scene is when it just keeps cutting. The lightning keeps flashing in and out. He's out in the middle of the ocean, and it just really gives you a sense of what it would be like to be there. It's not like well lit throughout the entire scene. It goes to complete blackness on the screen when that lightning isn't actively flashing, and it's just going in and out for the entirety of the scene. You see the raft floating away. That was a scary thing to watch.
Yeah, it was like perfect storm or something, right? Watching the raft float away. That's one thing that didn't change for me. I'd never been on a flight first time I saw this movie, and I've been on dozens since. But that scene is still like just as harrowing as the first time I saw it.
Especially that one shot when like the door to the cockpit is open and Tom Hanks and like Tom Hanks is looking in, and you see like the lightning flash, and then you just see like the plane just diving towards the ocean, and you see the water and like approaching, and it gives you chills because you're like, oh my god, like they're gonna crash, and it's just like it's terrifying.
And it took longer than I thought too, because that's all you can see when you're pointed at that angle.
And just it's such a like watching it last night, the level of sound completely changes, because like the first part of the film is just a bunch of talking and stuff like that, and then bam, you just feel the sheer force of all the sound design and everything. And Alan Silvestri's, I think, one of the most beloved composers, especially for like Back to the Future and stuff like that. And you really get that score, and then it stops once he gets onto the island. But like leading up to this point, it's just, I think that sequence just works so well in terms of hitting the thrills, making this like a terrifying experience. And then I was talking with Joe's getting some representation not being here. He's like, do you remember watching the teaser trailer for this? And basically the teaser trailer was just him washing up on the shore, and it was just like a minute or two of that, and then it's like Castaway, and you're just like this terrifying feeling of just being on this island, and like you could feel that in his performance. And then of course
I got YouTube that.
Yeah, and then the full-length trailer ruined it because it showed scenes from after he gets off the island. It's just like, what are you doing? Because it's like they're not going to see the movie if they don't think Tom Hanks is going to get home. Stupid crap. But I guess getting to the island, obviously, then it's the Tom Hanks show, and there's no music. It's him and everything. I guess kind of thinking about what are some of the highlights for everybody in terms of like his time on the island.
Well, I want to say like in terms like I'm glad that we're talking about the sound design, because like first off, like when you look at the movie's Oscar nominations, it got two. It got one for Tom Hanks and one for sound, and and that obviously Tom Hanks is very well deserving of his nomination, but that for sure, this like the sound deserves just as much recognition, because like with the absence of a score throughout that portion of the movie, like like all you can, in terms of sound, all you rely on is what's on the island. And I really think that that's what absorbs you, like a lot into Tom Hanks' situation, because you because like you really feel his loneliness, like, because you're in the middle of a desert island. You have nothing else around you. You have nothing else around you except what's on the island. So just to have the movie use typical island sounds with the wind in the trees, and the waves crashing against the sand, like it really heightens the whole experience of like you being with Tom Hanks, like while he's on this island.
Absolutely.
For me, I like when I see a character in kind of like a really crappy, almost impossible situation, but they're really, really smart,
Mhm.
and they start kind of like problem solving, and it's like, oh crap, like I don't think I would have thought of that. Oh crap, I don't think I would have thought of that either. So that was kind of interesting. Even like super small stuff, like burrowing a hole in a coconut and then using a leaf to be a funnel, or maybe it's just like there's a bunch of random stuff. I thought that was really interesting. I also thought that I don't know. I mean, so the one thing that I remembered from when I first watched the movie was when the corpse washes up to shore, and like that was kind of like, it's like so sad, right? Because like you see him like on that huge like overlook like rock formation. You see like, oh crap, like is that somebody else? And then like he like gets down there and he's like throwing like his clothes off and he jumps into the water, and you see that, oh no, the guy is like 100% dead. And then he has kind of like a really like a human moment. It reminded me of kind of like a couple of scenes from I Am Legend, where it's like I am so alone. I
Yeah.
am like so very alone. Even kind of like things that I don't know how to like really articulate it, but it's almost kind of like even the things that I thought would comfort me and make me feel like less alone. Like no, like I can't like rely on that, because like that makes me just like more alone. So that was really
Like if
sad.
you were in that situation.
Yeah, like that was like that was crap. Even like the shoes were too small for him. I'm like, also like what shoes is what size is Tom Hanks? Can somebody Google that? Like,
But that was
it was
another
like
thing you were mentioning, all this improvisation. When he found out they don't fit, he just turns them into sandals.
yeah, 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 that was pretty awesome actually.
I was
I
kind of asking myself if I would bury him. I'm curious to know if you guys would have done the same. I feel like I would have just let
I
him
would have
wash
dumped
back
him
out to
back into
sea.
the
You know what I
sea.
mean? But I
I
feel
would have
like
taken his
that's kind
pants
of
and his
significant
shirt.
to the character that he took the time, spent the energy to bury him. I don't know.
But I wonder if that was his original intent. Probably. But there's a moment after he picks up his ID and he realizes, oh, his name was Albert, not Alan. Maybe he's thinking, I got to give him a proper burial at that point.
Also, Tom Hanks is a size 11.
Hmm.
There you go. Hey, these are the important pieces of details that we provide here on the Development Hell podcast with the Movie Club.
I feel like that was found too fast.
Yeah,
I
right. Like
literally
what?
just Googled
Did
Tom
he
Hanks and
disclose
shoe
that? Did
size.
someone find out?
Yeah. Also, I would be
It's
effed.
possible the question came up because of this very movie, though.
I would have been screwed if I like had to try to find shoes to wear on an island, as I'm a 15 quadruple E. I just would have been like, well, we're making leaf shoes. It's what's going to happen now. Jim, what stood out to you from his time on the island?
Uh, so the scenes I remembered were all from the island. Um, there was the scene where he has to knock his own tooth out.
Oh
And
God.
I think that traumatized me the first time I saw it. There was What was the other one I remembered? Oh, the fire, making fire, of course. And then I remembered when he lost Wilson. I didn't remember how it happened that Wilson came to be, but I remember when he lost Wilson. That's an important scene that we have to talk about, but we don't have to go there quite yet because I'm jumping ahead of Island time here.
I loved the part with the fire because,
When he
like,
just starts singing the Doors right away.
well, like you have him trying to like spin it, and it's not working, and then he's doing something, and I just love Tom Hanks's performance because you know all the gears that are turning in his head, and you see a moment where just like he realized something, and then he's doing the like
Yeah.
putting it like sideways and really rubbing, creating the friction, and then he cuts his hand, and then it's the Wilson toss. And that's how you get the bloody handprint that turns into Wilson, obviously. But just the point where he finally gets the fire and joyous, manic Tom Hanks is so great. And I can't help but think, honestly, this is going to sound terrible, but like I couldn't help but think I was hearing Woody like freaking out from Toy Story because it's just like Tom Hanks's voice is so distinct, and there's very long pieces of this movie where you don't hear it, and then him just going like, fire! It was just such a great moment. Also, yes, that tooth thing.
No, you know, I knew that was coming, and I fast forward through it. I couldn't watch it.
It's such a great scene, and it's such a great way to do the jump, right?
They
Like,
choreographed that really well too. It looked like he really got himself there.
yeah, they shot that really well. The other part, and this is like one of the most morbid parts on the island, is the after the 4-year jump and everything, when he's trying to find rope, and he goes and grabs the noose that he made, and you're like, well, that's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those little things because he didn't acknowledge it right away. And, you know, it's just like, oh no. He definitely was planning on hanging himself at some point while he was trapped on this island in these 4 years. And that just like hid away. And it just captures just I cannot even imagine. Like, I didn't even want to imagine being alone during COVID. At least I had Jess. Like most of COVID, like we had been moved in together and like we had each other during all of that. But just like being alone, like literally alone for 4 years and struggling to get by, trying to also I felt very connected to him when he stabbed that crab the first time and then tried to eat out of it and it just like goop. And I'm just like, that's exactly how I felt when I made I cooked crab for the first time. I'm like, where's the meat? I'm just like, I did all of this work trying to get something out of this. That's gonna come back later when he gets off the island because there's but
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's just that whole sequence with him on the island is one of the best. Like, this is some of the best survival film, like films and filmmaking, and just so great in terms of all the different distinct scenes that really stood out. And you know, it wouldn't work without Tom Hanks. That's why, like I said before, that's why you get Tom Hanks to make a film like this. You need an actor to be able to carry it.
I got a couple things to talk about on the island, if I'm not cutting anybody off. One, the effigy, Shane. I'm glad you brought it up because I was kind of asking myself, like, why did he feel the need to hang an effigy and not just do it? Like, why did it matter if he was going to bounce off the side of the cliff or if the branch would break? Like, if he was if he really wanted to kill himself, it wouldn't have mattered. The test, you know, he didn't have to do that. So like, he was looking for an excuse to not do it. And the other thing is the pictures of Kelly that he put onto the cave wall.
Mhm.
I watched this with my girlfriend, and she was like, at a certain point in the movie, she was like, "Why did he feel the need to make a friend, Wilson, if he could have just talked to Kelly the whole time, or he could have just talked to himself the whole time? Like, why Wilson?" Um, I think that's a really interesting question. I think the idea of Kelly motivated him to get off of the island. Um, Again, I'm jumping ahead chronologically, but I think it's really interesting that the idea of Kelly kind of gave him motivation to live, and it doesn't matter in the end if they were, if they were actually going to link back up. Um, there's some sweet scenes towards the end, but like the important thing is that he had something, kind of like Michael Jordan would like grasp any little straw to make himself angry to be more competitive. Like he was looking for any excuse to motivate himself to keep going and like get off of that island. I thought so. The effigy and the Kelly images in the cave and Wilson. I don't really know the need for Wilson if it was like a artistic choice. Maybe can you guys weigh in? Like, was the Wilson thing really necessary?
I think it was really just out of physicality, just to have something there with him.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I think, and also that scene, when he loses Wilson, is one of the most memorable scenes in the whole entire movie. And like, if you don't have Wilson there, you don't have that. And it's just obviously he was made out of accident. Because, like, obviously he didn't intend on cutting his hand open, and he just happened to grab like the closest thing that he could chuck and left his bloody handprint on it. And I think from like his experience, it just came, I guess it just came to him. That's what it felt like. Like, I'm going to turn this into like a little friend because it kind of looked like a face, like the handprint on there. And then you're there for 4 years, like talking to somebody. And maybe he didn't want to attach like a real human to his experience. Maybe he was okay with like having this separate entity while he was there because like there was a Kelly to go home to.
I was going to say, I think that was part of it. It was just a motivator for him to return.
But yeah, because like if he was talking to this Kelly, it's not really his Kelly. It's just a construct of Kelly in his own mind. Here, like Wilson is just a construct, and there's no baggage like him going home to be like, there's a Wilson to return to, and what if I'm not as connected with that Wilson as this Wilson?
And also, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it would make the relationship with Kelly awkward when he got home. Put like 4 years of baggage of like this fantasy Kelly onto her when he gets home.
And I was going to say, and then there's, not to jump too far ahead, but there's a scene towards the end where he's talking to his coworker, I think it was, and he's explaining that a little bit. He said, she was on the island with me, and that's what got me home. So it's kind of like he's got the picture of her and he's got Wilson. They're just two different motivators for him at the same time, essentially, is how I viewed it.
And he had the package. Like that one package he did not open.
Right, yeah, the packet. Shane,
Which ties into that
said
same
about
line.
him not wanting to invest too much. He didn't want to fantasize Kelly too much. I think I kind of missed it. So he like actually took a step to not do that to her, keeping kind of like it's like a category of his brain, kind of realistic that like Kelly's Kelly, I'm here, and she's with me, but like she's not really
Not with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that package is such an interesting idea. We'll get to the very end, but like I feel like it's it was such an interesting choice that he latched onto like that one package to go. And in the end, it wound up being good for him because it gave him like this purpose and this like first stepping stone to take in his like post-return life. And it's just what's in it? As we were watching it, Jess was like, my wife was just like, it's Marcellus Wallace's soul. Just like in the briefcase from Pulp Fiction. I wonder how much that that woman paid for it. It's just one of those kinds of things where I think that was an interesting choice. Do we want to talk about anything else before we get onto the raft and, you know, talk about Wilson?
I think we've hit the main beats of it.
Family Guy. Why'd you have to ruin it? Because like that's the thing. When you're not actively watching the film, you just think about Wilson. I'm sorry, Wilson. And where like Jim, you mentioned like you remember it being funny, and then you watch the film and it's not. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
I felt
this
a
time
little bit
around,
similar.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I'm gonna step on your toes and then I'm gonna jump backwards again.
Oh, that's it. That's it. I wasn't adding to that.
Yeah, I just was. I can't even explain to you why I found it so sad. Maybe just more life experience and more kind of empathy to put towards Tom Hanks' situation. Just one thing I'd written down that I kind of would like to say is that like Chuck's character and me were very different people. Like from the first scene, the whole monologue about the clock, we need to talk about that. Whole monologue about time, about the clock. He's kind of an asshole. He's not a boss I would want to work for. We would not get along. We wouldn't be friends. I think I'd do better at first. Like I wouldn't be so desperate to talk to somebody that I'd make a friend. But credit to the character building of the movie, I understood right away that his character is a much more social person, is a much more what's the not task oriented but time oriented, right? He's kind of anal retentive about things, so he needed someone to talk to. So in that sense, I appreciated the character building too of like from the beginning up to there. Mm-hmm. And well, we can talk about character change, I guess, on the raft and after. Yeah.
I'm just gonna put on the record that if I were in a job that was almost all logistics, I have a sinking feeling I'd be similar to him, where it's just like, get this done, and because I micromanage my day like to the T, and I'm just that kind of human being, and I'm just like, I feel attacked at the beginning of the film. And it is a very interesting change that he has, because you being stuck on an island like that, you have no idea what time, like days, weeks, years, it's just gone. And you just understand that you're living. And I feel like that's one of the things that gets in the way. It's like, sometimes I wish that I wasn't like this. And I would just be like, you know what? I just wake up one day and just go with the flow. There's no flow. There is like, this is going to get done. That's going to get done. This is what I'm going to do today. And even when I don't have anything structured to do, I find structure in life. And it's such a fascinating look of like seeing a human being change like that. And feeling there's like a cathartic sense of release too, of just like, I'm not confined to these restrictions of time anymore, and I can just, you know, go with life and what life is throwing at me. Because like, I don't think the man who was in that plane that crashed could have handled what happens to him afterwards. I think he had to be like, the only way that he could deal with that situation that he did was that he did change. And, you know, I feel like Wilson, I don't think he could have brought Wilson back with him. Like, I don't think this would have worked if he did. I think naturally he needed to lose Wilson. He needed to leave the island behind and go back to life. And like, obviously it makes for such an emotional scene. And just, it was heartbreaking because like he's malnourished. He can't physically swim out there to go get Wilson. Like, it's just not going to happen. And you just hear as it like pulls away from the shot, and you just hear Tom Hanks just devastated, screaming Wilson and everything. It's just like, nope, no, I hate this. I hate this feeling watching this scene.
Yeah, because he's like one. Even if you feel like how can he lose like anything more after he loses Wilson? He's one more degree alone, which is also pretty sad. And I think that's probably the thing that kind of made me feel sad. There's like two scenes that made me feel like really, really sad. It was like that scene when he was like crying, and then I guess like the goodbye kiss with I guess with his former girlfriend. I like what you said, Shane, about the person that he was before the crash. Like, he had to adapt, not just kind of like survival instincts, but also kind of like his mindset, and or kind of like how he like views, how he kind of just like let's say approaches this like situations. But then I also feel like I feel like that kind of helped him too, like his time orientedness a little bit, because like towards right before he starts doing the raft stuff, when he's like mapping out like the months, and he's saying, okay, so I need to get off this island during this period, like of this like season or whatever, and I'm using kind of like the wind, I don't know, whatever he's doing. Like, I thought that was kind of interesting too, because he's definitely changed by the end of the movie. Like, how could he not? But also there was kind of like that through line, or it's kind of like I still need to. I still have like a job to do. I need to deliver this package. I need to see my girlfriend, and I need to get the hell off this island. So I thought that was also like pretty interesting too.
Yeah, I think the skills and that like numbers oriented kind of perspective obviously helped him on the island. And I don't think he would have been able to survive the way that he did without it in many ways. And then it's interesting because then he has to shed that when he goes back. And I guess, is this a good time to move into him getting off the raft and back to his life?
Sure. I just want to bring up one moment on the raft when he lets go of the oars. Did you guys find that to be super symbolic? Also, the whale, I was like, what the hell? What does this mean? Like,
I was thinking he was
a
just
hero's
giving up
journey
in that
thing.
moment, you know.
I feel like it was him kind of giving up control and letting the water and the flow take him. Because up to that point, like Matt, you were bringing up the point with like him mapping out everything and this and that and this and that. I think that was the moment he shedded it and let it go and allowed him to be that person in the third act of this film that is dealing with this situation. I just don't feel like somebody so rigid would be able to come back and just like understand that he needs to let go and move on to this place in his life. Like, him trying to really fight to be with Kelly at that point, I don't think would have helped anybody. It would have hurt a lot of people. And I think the person he was beforehand wouldn't have been able to give up that control of the situation. And I think the man that he is after understands that, like, there was something special there. There's something meaningful there. But life doesn't always work out that way. So you can love somebody, you can connect with somebody, you can relate to somebody, But relationships don't work without the timing too. And timing can be horrible in terms of you might connect with the right person at the wrong time in your life. Or in this situation, he's no longer the person he's no longer there at the right time. He lost all that time. And he realized that he has to move on and find something different. And I think that's really admirable. I'm going to speak for Joe since he's not here. One thing that he brought up is how interesting the title is. Because he's not just a castaway on the island. He winds up being castaway when he gets back.
2 words intentionally, yeah.
Where it's like he no longer fits into the life that he had. And because time and because people thought he was dead, they moved on. And him, we'll get back to it, but him at that crossroads is just as much of him being a castaway than he is on the island. And him trying to navigate everything. There are 2 things I want to bring up that really made me angry in the last part of this movie. One, how insensitive it was for them to have a bunch of seafood for that dinner break.
Yeah.
I'm just like, are you shitting me?
Well, one thing I want to say about that scene, like, I mean, yeah, like it's easy to like laugh at like how like they have the seafood there, but like one reason why I think that's one of my favorite scenes of the movie is because like it's a real moment of like it's one of the real moments of contemplation for his character because like because like he's all alone in this room. He's just like looking around, just like he's thinking about what he's been through, and then he sees this table of like all this stuff that we all take for granted. But he's looking at this table. He sees all the crab there that he can just take and eat when he had to like actually like work for his food on the island. He picks up the lighter. He sees fire is available at just like the click of a button, whereas he actually had to learn how to make fire on that island. So like it's just a real you just get a real sense of how this character really experienced two completely different worlds in the span of 4 years.
And I do really like that they show that little table of food right after he has all these awkward interactions with his old coworkers and stuff. One guy, I think, flat out says, "Hey, so now I got to take you fishing, huh?" Like something like that.
And also,
it's like you say that to someone who just came back from this situation, and that's how the whole interaction feels while he's at that welcome back party. And then the people leave. He sees that table of food, and that's like a slap in the face.
But one thing that I did chuckle at. I mean, I know it's an emotional moment when he's on the plane because he's finally back with people. But like, I kind of chuckled at when the guy offered him a Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like there's no way he could drink a Dr. Pepper after 4 years. Like that. I didn't have sugar for like a month and a half, and then had a bunch of cookies last weekend and had heartburn.
But no,
I'm
it's
just
not
like, I can't even imagine trying to process something like soda.
but no, it's not because of that, but because like it was like a throwback to Zemeckis and Hanks for Forrest Gump.
Well, like I appreciate that. I'm just saying though, it adds
okay.
layers
I don't
to the
remember that.
scene. Well, because he drank how many Dr. Peppers in Forrest Gump? But no, it's a matter of like him not being able to just assimilate right back into his old life. It's like his body, like, I would imagine he would vomit from having something like that.
Well, it's like when you don't have fast food for a very long time, and then when you do, it wrecks your insides.
I feel like it also highlighted kind of like what he's been through. Like there's not really like any any person on the planet that could really
No.
understand like what he had to do. Like it just like a random thing, like, oh, like, yeah, like let's have some sushi. Like that was like his entire
Mhm.
world, and also, and but like way more gritty. Like at the at the 4 year jump when he's eating with his bare hand that fish, that was rough. That was rough to watch. That was rough,
Mhm.
guys. It looked real.
Yeah, it did.
Also, the other moment that really pissed me off in the last part of the film. So Chris Noth's character comes in and says this whole spiel about how she can't like give her time, she can't do it. And when he looks out that window and he's guiding her back into the car when she's trying to go in, I wanted to jump through that screen and just kick that man in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Like that piece of shit. Like the real villain of this movie, Chris Noth's character from Castaway.
And he's in it for mere minutes.
But I also am not 100% sure that that was entirely his intention.
I know the vibe that I got when he looked out the window and she was trying to go in and he was like forcing her back into the car. I 100% got the vibe that like he didn't want her to talk to him because you know what? He knows that he isn't as good as Tom Hanks. The hyperbole at the end aside, that moment, I never noticed that when I watched this the first time as like a 20-year-old, but like as an adult and just watching that scene and understanding the subtlety of it and just being like,
I think he was being needlessly defensive without realizing how bad of a look that was.
oh, I know how bad of a look it was.
Oh yeah.
And like that, it's a small, like obviously it's a very quick sequence of like him looking out that window. And, you know, in the end, like she has a kid. She's been married for all this time to a dentist, which also like that just piles it on top at that point after he had to do his own dental surgery on himself. But like that sequence, like that whole part with him and Helen Hunt, and it 100% gets super melodramatic and like a movie where she starts running after him and he like swings the car back. Joe
I
was
thought that was
like,
kind of funny.
Joe was like,
That was
he
a nice
heard
touch.
her. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's insinuating they both had the same feeling at the same time. And of course, like that's the Zemeckis of it a little bit, and it's just like.
I thought a lot of Hollywood movies will put needless sex scenes into movies that don't need them. This is one case of the complete reverse. I was like, she's gonna give him a hug and that's it. He's gonna leave. Are you kidding me? There's no way.
They gotta do it one last time. Before he leaves. Also, on a side note, as a football fan, I thought that was so interesting, them talking about how the Houston Oilers moved to become the Tennessee Titans. And I just turned to Joe, I'm like, that was the Super Bowl where Kurt Warner beat the Titans in the Super Bowl. And I'm like, I know this. So, you know, I got that reference. But it's such a... In a different movie, they would have got back together, no matter what the adversity was and stuff like that. I'm glad they didn't, and they understood. Like I felt like it was up until the point where it got really like sappy. It was a very mature sequence of like understanding that, like you can tell. Look at the look on Tom Hanks's face half the time he's staring at her. It's just like, I want to kiss you right now and take you upstairs. But like they don't. And I think that's the more mature thing to do in that situation because she does have a whole life. And it's perfectly understandable that she moved on. It was 4 years. And like he crashed in the ocean. What are the chances that somebody survived on a deserted island for 4 years to come back. And trust me, I've seen films that try to handle this. One came out this year and wasn't great. Trying to navigate the romance of like, I'm with this other guy now, but the love of my life has come back. Let's make this sappy romance of me trying to like, which man am I going to be with? And I'm just like, this is like what could have been the end of Castaway, and I'm glad it wasn't.
I really like the way he responded to her when she said that she still loved him. I thought his tone was very flat. I thought he was very wooden, and I was like, that had to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's Woody.
Because he's no, but yes. Because I thought even though you could tell he was still in love with her, he knew that it wasn't gonna happen. He just had to see her again.
Yeah,
also, like he was putting her like second to his job for like, I don't even know how long the relationship was before the movie started, but like I feel like that was also like the point too, like him apologizing for getting on the plane was that like, I'm apologizing for getting on the plane, but also hopefully I'm sort of apologizing for like putting you second.
Yeah.
It's like super. I feel like, and she doesn't know how much he's changed. So if she would have gotten in the car with him and said, "Let's keep driving," and he got his old job back or something, I feel like they would have just went back to what they were doing before.
It's like he wouldn't have learned his lesson.
Yeah, it would have been kind of like it would like the symmetry of it wouldn't. It would be a crappy symmetry. It would be like, oh, okay, so like you just did like a 360 instead of 180.
What I liked about his reunion with Helen Hunt was that I really felt like it was like the screenwriter and filmmaker's way of saying, we have Tom Hanks here, one of the most beloved actors in movies. Of course you want to see good things happen to him, but we're gonna meet you halfway. Yes, we're gonna get him off the island. We're gonna allow him to say whatever he has to say to Helen Hunt, but he can't get back together with her. It would never be that easy for someone to do that. He has to now. He now has to find a new path in life, and just accept the fact that while before the island, you were very timely. You had everything planned out. You now have a new plan, and you have to got to figure out what you're going to do going forward.
It was the consequence of his choice. Unfortunate, but it's the consequence of what he prioritized. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he was a real workaholic in the beginning of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that we didn't see too much of Helen Hunt. I think some of you were mentioning this before. And like you were saying, Shane, if this were a different movie, I feel like we might have been cutting back to her back at home at some of those intervals while he was there for the 4 years he was stranded.
I'm certainly glad they did not.
I am very glad they did.
Yeah. I have an important question for everybody. Who's shipping him with the lady that he delivered the package to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say that again.
Who here is like he should totally turn and follow her back to her ranch because take a shot.
It would make the significance of returning the package a little bit better.
But he has another ball in his passenger seat. Do you guys notice that when the camera kind of like goes to like he has another? I don't know.
Soon he won't need it.
Yeah, I feel like the character might need some better help or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that final sequence when he's like out at the ranch, I really liked that final shot of him at the crossroads because whereas before that you have him in the middle of the ocean. He doesn't know which direction he's going. He's just leaving it. He's just leaving it up to the elements. Now he's surrounded by land, but he's now able to choose which direction he wants to go in.
Right back to that very attractive woman who just flirted with him. So,
and that, I mean, I think that would be consistent with the change he's been going through throughout the movie. He's saying, he's got to seize every opportunity now. So I feel like at this point, after all that he's gone through and all the changes he's had with himself, he would turn around. I'd like to think that's what happened afterwards.
I concur. Yeah, I think he went back.
good for him. He deserves some good after all of that.
Well, you know what? When you think about it, it would make sense that he would go to her because obviously, she's, she has what she needs. She has a house, she has a car and everything, but she's also, she herself is also living in some kind of isolation. Like she's out there in the middle of nowhere, and he probably realizes, here's someone who I can connect with, who knows. I mean, yeah, I know she has a dog that's like her Wilson, but like, he's
Dog's
probably,
name
I
is
got that
Wilson,
interpretation
confirmed.
as well. Yeah.
like he's, wait, what was that?
I just said dog's name's Wilson, confirmed.
But
I'm spreading rumors here.
But he probably realizes, here's someone who knows how to live out on her own, who doesn't necessarily need other people around her to live a functioning life. Like I think I can connect with her I can connect with her in this way, and we can hopefully build a relationship on that.
That's really beautiful, Vinny.
I kind of get that same impression, though. Yeah, he put it very well.
Sequel? Question mark? Like
they both get stranded this time.
yeah,
Oh my god.
on their way to Burning Man or something.
Oh.
Like
Oh man. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Ugh.
Alrighty. Do we have any other thoughts we want to share?
Yeah, how much money do you think he got in
Questions?
the settlement from FedEx?
That man is set.
He has to be set for the rest of his life. I wouldn't take anything else for an answer.
Won't
his
take anything
position.
less.
Right.
Jim?
I've got something. Matt, I was looking for that monologue he did about time and like turning your back on time and stuff, and I couldn't find it. So I really want to just hit that real quick before we wrap up. What exactly did he say? Because he repeated it, like, was it to Wilson or to the picture of Kelly in the cave? He repeated like 2 lines that were really important.
about like the monologues thing.
Mm.
Well, when I was talking about the two things, I was thinking about when he was putting up the clock in the beginning, and he's telling all like those people that he's working with, like in Russia, like he's saying like there's truly, literally nothing more important than us like sticking to our word, and which is kind of like a theme of kind of like promises and broken promises throughout the movie, and then also kind of us just being like punctual and on time and just being kind of like knowing like what's going on so we can be like, the best whatever we can be. And I was thinking it was that monologue, and then towards the end where he says the line like keep breathing. That's what I was thinking about, and I really like the idea. Like not so much the idea, I guess, just like the line itself. I just have to just keep breathing. I don't really have any other choice then on the island or now. I'm just going to keep breathing. I forget the other time conversation though. I forget the other one you might be referencing. I forget the one you're talking about.
Get busy living, get busy dying.
I'll watch again and I'll like put it down in the comments or something when I actually find it.
There you go. But what a good conversation.
Yeah.
This is a good pick. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Wherever you are.
You, Joe.
But from Jim, from Vinny, from Matt, and from Kevin, we just want to say we would never invite this man to Applebee's because he certainly wouldn't be able to have the food after this experience. But we want to thank all of you for tuning in. And always, thank you for tuning in and supporting the Development Hell podcast.